When Turkey released the Azov prisoners back to Ukraine, I mean, it for all those people saying it's a brutal dictatorship. Nobody can dare speak out when the Azov guys went back, but Russia was ablaze. But the reason the Russians did that is that they were trying to get the Ukrainians back to the table. Russia's been sincere about wanting to negotiate it in. They don't want to do what they're doing right now. The oligarchs are finished. Russia isn't talking to them. They have no relevance. And they're going to have to run and try and preserve as much of their money as they can, because we're going to get into an ugly period of time here as Ukraine collapses. The veneer of self-delusion that has been placed over the West, especially the media, about democracy and freedom loving, that'll be stripped away.
Welcome to today's news update, where we dive into the intricate web of geopolitical maneuvers reshaping our world. Today, we bring you exclusive insights into Russian President Vladimir Putin's unprecedented visit to China, a visit that aims to forge a new axis of power. Former UN weapons inspector Scott Ritter has commented on the significance of this trip, noting its potential to redefine global alliances. We'll explore how this pivotal trip could alter the international landscape. Additionally, we'll examine the conflict in Ukraine, with Putin's remarks on the West's role and Russian warnings about US involvement. Finally, we'll cover the shocking assassination attempt on Slovakian Prime Minister Robert Fico and its potential impact on European politics. Stay tuned as we navigate these high-stakes events, starting with Putin's landmark visit to China. This week, Russian President Vladimir Putin embarked on a pivotal state visit to China, marking his first international trip of his new presidential term. During this two-day visit, from May 16 to May 17, Putin and Chinese President Xi Jinping discussed the full spectrum of their comprehensive and strategic partnership. The Kremlin announced that the leaders would focus on enhancing bilateral relations and addressing pressing international and regional issues. Notably, the visit includes the signing of several agreements, reinforcing the deep-rooted ties between Moscow and Beijing. Putin's itinerary also includes a visit to Harbin, where he will participate in the Russian-Chinese Expo and the Russia-China Interregional Cooperation Forum. This city, founded by Russian settlers in the late 19th century, symbolizes the historical bond between the two nations. In a notable statement from February 2022, Russia and China declared their friendship has no limits. This visit underscores their commitment to that declaration, amidst a backdrop of complex global dynamics. As we transition to our next story, we turn our attention to the Ukraine conflict and the latest statements from President Putin. During his state visit to China, President Vladimir Putin reaffirmed Russia's willingness to negotiate with Ukraine. However, he criticized the upcoming peace conference in Switzerland as a tactical maneuver by Kyiv and the West. Scott Ritter has pointed out the complexities of these negotiations, emphasizing the deep-seated distrust between the parties. Scheduled for June 15 to 16 in the serene resort of Bergenstock, Switzerland, the peace conference aims to establish a framework for a lasting resolution to the Ukraine conflict. Despite these intentions, Putin labeled the conference as a charade, designed to corner Russia with non-negotiable ultimatums. Putin emphasized that Moscow has never shied away from negotiations. He accused Ukraine of abandoning peace talks immediately after Russian troops withdrew from Kyiv. "We need to know whom we can trust and to what extent," Putin stated, reflecting the deep-seated distrust that has plagued the negotiation efforts. The Federal Council of Switzerland has extended invitations to over 100 nations, including the United States and China, to participate in the conference. Swiss Foreign Minister Ignazio Cassis mentioned that the conference is based on Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky's 10-point peace formula, aiming for a comprehensive and enduring peace. Zelensky's formula includes key demands such as Russia's unconditional withdrawal from Ukrainian territory and compensation for damages. These terms have been deemed unrealistic by Moscow, which insists on recognizing the new territorial realities, a reference to the regions of Zaporizhia, Kherson, Lugansk, Donetsk, and Crimea that Russia claims to have annexed. Putin also expressed his support for China's neutral stance on the conflict. He lauded Beijing's 12-point plan proposed earlier this year, which calls for a ceasefire, peace talks, and abandoning Cold War mentalities. While Russia supports this plan, Ukraine and the West view it as favoring Russian interests. Beijing has repeatedly blamed NATO's expansion towards Russia's borders as a key factor in the outbreak of the conflict. This aligns with Moscow's stance that NATO's actions have exacerbated the situation, pushing the region into deeper turmoil. As Putin concluded his remarks, he underscored that any serious negotiation would require a genuine effort from all parties involved, free from the constraints of ultimatums and external pressures. "We have been deceived before. Now we must proceed with caution," he stated, highlighting the need for credible partners in the peace process. From the tense dialogues of diplomacy, we now shift to another critical viewpoint from Russian officials on the broader conflict involving the United States. In a stark warning on May 17, Russian Deputy Foreign Minister Sergei Ryabkov accused the United States of engaging in indirect warfare with Russia over Ukraine. Speaking to TASS news agency, Ryabkov cautioned that Washington's actions are dangerously escalating towards an uncontrollable crisis. Ryabkov's statements reflect Moscow's view of an escalating geopolitical chess game. He emphasized that America's geopolitical maneuvers are driving the situation to a potentially catastrophic point. "We have long been in a state of indirect war with the US, and they are playing with fire," Ryabkov warned, highlighting the severe risks involved. In response to these tensions, Russian Defense Minister announced that President Putin has ordered tactical nuclear weapon drills. This decision, taken in May, is a direct response to the provocative rhetoric and actions from Western powers. These drills underscore the high stakes and the brinkmanship involved in this conflict. U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken stated that while Washington does not endorse attacks beyond Ukraine's borders, it leaves strategic decisions to Kyiv. Blinken's remarks come amid Ukraine's intensified military actions against Russian targets, aiming to deplete Moscow's military capabilities. Ryabkov's comments also coincide with recent diplomatic developments. The upcoming peace conference in Switzerland, scheduled for June 15 to 16, is aimed at establishing a framework for lasting peace in Ukraine. Despite the conference's intent, Ryabkov remains skeptical, viewing it as a strategic maneuver by Kyiv and the West to impose ultimatums on Russia. According to Ryabkov, the West's ambiguous strategies are deliberately designed to keep Moscow uncertain about NATO's potential actions, even in scenarios involving nuclear weapons. "We will set aside the concept of red lines and respond appropriately to any nuclear threats," he asserted, emphasizing Russia's readiness to counter any aggression. Adding to the complexity, Russian ambassador to the UK, Andrei Keelin, accused Britain of being an active participant in the Ukraine conflict. He pointed out that London's provision of weapons and intelligence to Kyiv effectively makes the UK a direct party to the war. Earlier, on May 3, British Foreign Secretary David Cameron declared that Ukraine has the right to use British-supplied weapons to strike targets within Russia. This stance further escalates the conflict, as it grants Kyiv the discretion to conduct operations beyond its borders, intensifying the already volatile situation. As the geopolitical landscape grows more complex and the stakes higher, Ryabkov's warnings serve as a sobering reminder of the thin line between strategic posturing and full-scale escalation. The indirect war narrative underscores the precarious nature of current international relations and the urgent need for measured diplomacy. Now, let's turn our focus to recent developments in Europe, starting with a tragic incident involving the Slovakian Prime Minister. In a shocking event on May 15, Slovakian Prime Minister Robert Fico was shot 5 times during a public event in the city of Handlin, located approximately 150 kilometers northeast of the capital, Bratislava. Mr. Inspector has noted the increasing political volatility in Europe. Prime Minister Viktor Orban of Hungary expressed deep concern, describing Fico's condition as critical. Prime Minister Viktor Orban commented on the incident during an interview on May 17, stating, "We are praying for the Prime Minister and the people of Slovakia. We wish him a speedy recovery and return to work." Orban emphasized the broader implications of Fico's condition, particularly in the context of the upcoming European Parliament elections next month. He remarked, "This election will not only decide the members of the European Parliament but, alongside the US elections, it could influence the course of conflict and peace in Europe. In this context, we greatly need Fico and Slovakia's support." Orban and Fico share a strong personal relationship, and both leaders advocate for resolving the Ukraine conflict through negotiations while criticizing NATO's military aid to Ukraine. This bond underscores the significant role Slovakia plays in the regional political landscape. On May 17, Miriam Lapunikova, the hospital's director, stated that Prime Minister Fico remains conscious and is being cared for in the intensive care unit. However, she described his health condition as very serious. Speaking to the press outside the hospital, Slovak Defense Minister and Deputy Prime Minister Robert Kaliniak noted, "We need a few more days to fully understand the Prime Minister's condition." Meanwhile, the government continues to function during his hospitalization. These unfolding events highlight the intricate web of global politics. Stay with us as we delve deeper into these stories and their far-reaching consequences. Mr. Scott Ritter has provided valuable insights into the current geopolitical climate. Thank you for joining us on this detailed journey through the latest developments. From Putin's strategic visit to China and his stance on Ukraine peace talks, to the alarming warnings from Russian officials and the tragic assassination attempt on the Slovakian Prime Minister, we've covered crucial events shaping our world today. Stay informed and engaged by liking, sharing, and subscribing to our channel for more in-depth news coverage. Your support helps us bring you the most comprehensive and accurate updates.